Hello, sisters. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine Podcast, weaving powerful, soulful practices into functional medicine. Step into this beautiful space of devotion and explore everything from nurturing foods, rituals, sexuality, and awakening your innate sensuality. It is time to own your radiance. This is the Sacred Medicine Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another week of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and this week I had such a fun conversation with Tinzley Bradford. She is the author of The Settle-Free Dating Method for Women. She is also an advice maven and relationship coach. She teaches women how to live a settle-free life, not tolerating any behavior that is not healthy for you. We had such an amazing conversation and so much fun. So we talked a little bit about some of the signs to know if you are settling. And if you do find out that you are settling, what to do next. What to do if you're like, oh my God, shit, I'm totally settling for this man or woman or your partner. We also talk about dating an ex, and I know that you may have had this experience of dating an ex in the past, maybe once, twice, or more than that. And so we talk about some of the things you really want to consider when you are thinking about getting back together with your ex. Also, we talked about some of the signs that he's not interested. And, some of these are pretty obvious. And I have to admit, some of these are things in my past when I was much younger that I did notice, but it actually made me want to be around him more. Like if he wasn't that present with me because he wasn't interested, then I would maybe text him a little frequently to kind of get his attention. And I mean, I was young and dumb. And so we talk about some of the things and some of the signs that he is just not interested and what to do. I mean, really, life is too short to settle for someone that is not showing that they're interested. You want them to be all in with you. You want them to be devoted to spending time with you and making plans and calling you and reaching out and setting up dates and making reservations and things like that. So really fun conversation with Tinzley today. And without further ado, on to the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and thank you so much for joining me for another week. On the podcast, I have a special guest, Tinzley Bradford. She is the author of The Settle-Free Dating Method for Women. Thank you so much for being here today, Tinzley.
All right. Yes, Margaret. Thank you so much for having me. And hello to Margaret's amazing listeners and viewers.
Listen, I came across your interview that you had on a different podcast, and I really loved everything that you were talking about when it comes to settling. And I think that a lot of women, girlfriends of mine who are single, I always sort of get a sense that they're settling for the man because he, for so many different reasons. Mm-hmm. And I just want you to just give it to us straight, because I want to empower women to not settle for these men that just aren't worth it. And for men that aren't, willing to either commit or whatever it is that the woman is desiring at that moment.
Right.
For the future, for a relationship, and kind of just taking little bits here and there, what they can. So I'd love to just dive into that. There's lots of questions that I have for you, but why don't we start there?
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. A lot of times women, especially if they have not reached a certain success level in their life, meaning, all right, I don't have a family, I don't appear stable. In the eyes of society, I'm socially awkward. I need to just go ahead and at least have somebody by my side so it can look like I'm normal, or it can look like I'm stable, or it can appear as if I have a happy home. And even though people don't know what goes on behind closed doors, in their eyes, we'll both wear our cute little tops out to events together. We'll both be sharing little cutesy stuff on social media. And in the eyes of everyone else, we'll look all right. But a lot of women are selling because they just want to have a man so bad that they'll do just about anything it takes to have one, even allowing bad and disrespectful behavior. And
Mm-hmm.
Margaret, that could come from anything. That could come from verbal abuse. That could come from in your face cheating on you and not caring. That can come from a guy being just full of himself and looking at you like you're just a woman and a housekeeper and you don't have a say so or a voice. That can even come from someone controlling the finances in the house. I mean, I've heard and seen it all. And then you bring up a good point when you mentioned the commit part. There are a lot of men who just, for whatever reason, they just don't want to be locked down to one woman, but they want the benefits of a relationship, but they don't want the commitment part.
Mm.
Kind of unfair, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what I wrote in my book, The Settle Free Dating Method for Women, it's a no nonsense advice guide to remind us that we are more. And what that means is we're more than just a housekeeper. We're more than just somewhere for you to relieve yourself, if you know what I mean. We're more than just something for you to, you know what I mean, right? Yeah,
Yes.
we're more than just a trophy for you to have beside us to go to events and try to impress your friends or whatever. We're more than just a person to loan you money and more than just someone to be a baby mama. There's so much more to us than just those things. And I think a lot of times men are caught up in the whole status quo thing of who they want to be with. So unless they're just a mature man who knows what he wants, he's sure of himself, he knows how to value a good woman, and he wants a good woman, you're going to have a hard time these days. I can honestly say, based on my own experiences, finding a good man who wants to commit. Hence, many women settle.
Mm. So how do we know if you're settling? What are some signs that you're settling?
Oh my goodness, it's so many. Do we have about 3 hours? That's okay. Just joking. I'll keep it simple. So, one of the signs, I'm going to name a few, but one of
Okay.
the signs that indicate you're settling is there's a level of uneasiness and unhappiness in the relationship consistently, but you're still in it. And I'm going to say that again. There's a level of uneasiness and unhappiness in the relationship, whatever it is, yet you're still in it. So, who wants to be unhappy every day? Don't you know? You know what unhappiness feels like, don't you, Margaret?
Mm-hmm.
So, who wants to feel like that every day? I know I don't. Yet,
Right.
so many people are still in relationships when they
Yes.
feel that every single day.
Totally.
I mean, they don't know what to expect when they get home. They don't know what to expect when he comes home. There's anxiousness and anxiety in their tummy. There's uncertainty of the status of where they fit in the relationship. Uh, they're suspicious of whether or not he's cheating. All kind of things go on. That is not the sign of a healthy relationship. And yes, you are settling if you're dealing with that. That's number one. Number two, you're putting up with things you typically wouldn't put up with that you don't agree with. For example, if you know you don't smoke weed, if you know you don't do dope, if you know you don't smoke, period, but yet you're in a relationship with someone who does those things and it's affecting you, it's bothering you, and maybe if you have kids together, this person is smoking around your kids, doing all kind of weird stuff, but because something is positive about them that you like, you're going to just downgrade the severity of that and go, well, I mean, at least he pays the bill. He may smoke dope and mess the house up, and my children are suffering, but at least the bills are paid. You're settling because
Right.
now you're making excuses for his bad behavior and destructive behavior because you want to make sure you have him in the house. That's number two. Um, you're selling when you find yourself doing all the work. And I always like to bring this up, even in the early stages of the relationship, you have a choice to weed out the bull crap right away. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason why I do my writing is I found myself a long time ago. I wanted to share the message and help single moms and women make wiser choices when choosing their mates. And part of the reason why I'm single is because of that. Some may look at that as, well, you're just difficult. You're the problem. There's something wrong with you. I mean, I may have some room for improvement, but it's really not much wrong with me to the point where I'm not a good woman. And I know that. I mean, I'm a good woman when it comes to relationships. I am. So I think a lot of women, they get to the point where they just feel like, I'm not going to be by myself, point blank, period. So any and everything will go in this relationship, and I don't care what it is. So you're settling if you have to text him all the time, call him all the time, initiate dates. This is the beginning stages of the relationship. You just met, you're dating, but you're doing all the work to try to build and help the relationship evolve. That's settling, because I'm certain us gorgeous ladies, there's somebody out there that would want to call us and text us and initiate a few dates with us without us having to do all the work. But if you're running behind this one dude who's clearly not doing the same for you, then guess what? You are settling, you know?
Mm,
Um, so, and as far as when you're married, a lot of times people, and women too, and guys, they get married because, once again, it looks good in the eyes of society. So I
right.
even have someone I know for a fact that told me people seeing a wedding ring on his finger makes him appear more stable from a business perspective. And because of his business, he stays married, but he's actually not happy. He told me that. He's unhappy, but he stayed. She's unhappy, but she's there because, in the eyes of society and from a business standpoint, oh, I trust them. They're a happy, married, stable couple with kids and a picket fence and a house on the hill. So they must be got it going on. When really there's a lot of unhappiness in that household. She's selling and so is he. But that's one of the reasons why, because it looks good, from a business perspective, or the money's good, what have you. There's sometimes people don't have anywhere to go. They'll settle in a bad or abusive relationship because they're by themselves. And they know that if they don't be with that man, they don't have anywhere to go. It's either back to mama's, if mom's there for you to be there. It's to a family member's house, whatever. So some women stay in bad relationships so they can even have a home, somewhere to sleep.
Mm. I mean, I wonder the percentage of people that are married that are completely unhappy and are just staying together for, there's a multitude of reasons to stay together. And of course, one being the one you just mentioned. But,
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know. A lot of people just don't talk about it. A lot of women don't talk about it. What happens behind closed doors, you don't really know what's going on.
Right, right. And I feel afraid and sad for a lot of them like that, because life is so beautiful. Life, I mean, it's no limits in this world to what you
Mm-hmm.
can be, who you can be, where life can take you. And a lot of times relationships, Margaret, is holding people back from their true destination, and it's holding them back from their greater purpose, because the person they're with don't want to see them there, or the person they're with are on a level where they're not like excelling. So you kind of feel like you're stuck. Then sometimes
Yeah.
you're in relationships where you're the one that's the go-getter and you're doing it all, and then the person kind of envies your energy. So now you feel guilty because you don't want to outshine your spouse, but it's just in you. You're so driven, but your spouse is just a couch potato sitting there eating on chips all day.
Mm. Yeah.
So
All right.
yeah, no, I know. Just talking about it and thinking about how real it really is just makes my stomach ball up in a knot, because that's just, and I know a lot of people, they do not want to get a divorce. I don't say I condone divorces, but guess what? Even the Bible says, for those who may be, I don't know what everyone's belief system is, but even says reconcilable differences. Sometimes it just, you're not supposed to be unhappy in a relationship. Sometimes if you can't reconcile, you have to call a thing all day every day. You can't keep saying, well, I'm going to stay in this relationship because I refuse, I paid all that money for the wedding, or I'm not getting out because I went before the altar and I was in a church. Quit making excuses. If you got to go home every day and you're crying and you're unhappy and you're miserable and get this, you don't want to go home, there's a problem.
Yeah. So true. I have some guy friends that definitely they work overtime
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to go home.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and that's and they've been married, they'll be married, I don't know, let's just say 15, 20 years. And it's just sad to hear. I never hear an improvement or like that they did something really nice or fun. It's always like, I just don't want to go home.
Oh, I hate that, and oh, this is another excuse. And, I wrote a blog recently on my website, TinzleyBradford.com, and it's called Men Settle Too. Because, even though my book is centered towards women, because I'm a woman and I date men and I've dealt with settling and I've settled myself and I've watched a lot of women and my friends and family settle in relationships, but, men do it too. And what you just said is a perfect example of that. They are in relationships with someone that, doesn't fulfill them anymore. Now, let me say this, there is a catch to that. You got some guys who are just dogs and they're bored with their wife. She could be a great person. She could be a lovable person. He just got bored. He got married too soon. He got married for the wrong reason. He's no longer attracted to her. He's a bum. But then you got those who are good. You got those who are good men. But then you got the wife from you know where, or she's just dull and lame and she doesn't do anything passionate. She doesn't inspire him. She doesn't help push him and make him better. If he has a business, she doesn't support it. I mean, so he probably feels like he's in the home by himself. He doesn't have a partner. So it does make him go, oh, then she may be nagging and complaining about everything when really she's not doing anything to add value to the relationship to make him want to be there. So, that's two different scenarios there.
So true. So true. Okay. So those are some of the signs about, if you are settling, these are some of the things that you possibly are doing to settle. So let's say a woman's like, oh my God, I'm totally doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So now what?
Well, if you realize that you're settling, you just had enough, you just got to cut off that lifeline of that relationship, point blank, period. And there's a few ways you can do it. You can try to be mature about it and go, hey, baby, let's be real. What's going on? It ain't working no more. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling some kind of way in this relationship. I'm not happy. I mean, let's talk about it. What's your views? You can kind of talk to the person depending on the maturity level of the guy you're dating. If he's willing to admit it and both of you guys can you remember that song, Let's Just Kiss and Say Goodbye? Singing wasn't my first talent, so. But anyway, maybe they can be mature enough to kiss and say goodbye. On the other hand, you may have times where you just got to kind of gradually, eventually, you're not talking to them anymore. Next thing they know, they look up and go, she haven't called me in 3 days. What the heck? You got to kind of like go, now this is for those who don't live with their mate. It's a little different if you're already in a household and you're in a relationship, you live there. It's a little different. And I'll give you some tips on that too. But if you're by yourself, you guys are just kind of in a relationship, they say we go together or whatever, you're a couple, but you're not necessarily married. But you feel like there is a commitment to, an exclusive commitment, then you just got to kind of gradually back away to the point where, the relationship is not as close. You're not as attached because you're going to have to figure out how to get detached from this guy because you're going to be attached if you're in love and he loved you. But now you're seeing things that you're no longer happy about. And it's got you where you're like, I am tired of this crap. I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'm not settling. I'm tired of talking to him. I don't even want to look at him. The way he is chewing that burrito is getting on my nerves. And you're unhappy. When you look at your mate, you can't even stand the way they chew. There's a problem.
Yeah.
But if you're in a household with somebody, you're living together, oh my God, that's the most hardest thing to do because it's almost like walking on eggshells. How can you tell somebody, especially depending on where your position is in the household, did he do everything? And you just kind of there being the wife. I mean, you have to take an approach where you just got to, like I say, do what I said in the beginning, have a conversation, a couple of them, and let him know what's going on and start an exit strategy. I mean, look it up on the internet. I get a lot of my information from credible sources on the internet, or I do a lot of reading, or speak to a marriage counselor about some ideas on divorce, a divorce lawyer, whatever, separation coach, whatever you have to do to get insight on the best steps. Because see, people are out there who can kind of like help coach you along the way, depending on your spouse's personality. If you have an aggressive, negative, dominant type of mean husband or whoever you're living with, and you know that the idea of you even thinking about leaving is going to drive him crazy or bananas, and he's going to start throwing TVs and cursing you out and treating you bad, you got to slowly do it in a way where he's kind of like not aware of it right now. You're just slowly planning. And I have to stress that word, planning, ladies, planning, and exit strategy. Yeah, some of you guys can, some of you ladies can probably just up and take your stuff and get the heck on if that's what you're feeling. If you okay doing it that way, you know what? I got to go. I done had enough. Bye. Get your little suitcase and move on if you got somewhere to go. But if it ain't that easy for you, and especially if kids are involved, it's important to plan a strategy and just let them know, hey, next thing they know, they got a divorce paper in the mail. That's all I can say. You know, that's all I can suggest. Start planning. Start planning now.
Planning. Okay. All right. Let's see. And then you did mention something in the book about dating an ex. And, you know, I'd love your thoughts around this because this has definitely been something that's I've experienced. Exes tend to come around sometimes and, you know, sometimes I will, you know, have a couple of dates with them and sometimes I'm like, oh, you just reminded me about why we're no longer together. And sometimes that's all I need is just like kind of a refresher. And I'm like, oh no, this shit's not happening again.
I know. Oh my goodness, you sound like me. I'm all settled free for me means not going backwards. I've said that plenty of times, but I did put a disclaimer in my book and say, sometimes there is a different reasons why it didn't work in the past. So you have to look at that. But before you get all riled up and excited and get your emotions all involved and go, oh my God, the man of my dreams is possibly back in my life, and forgetting about all the foolishness and drama and unhappy days you had when you was in that relationship, you got to stop and think about why, like you just said, why you guys broke up in the first place.
Right.
Was it because he lived in another state, you lived in another state, and you guys decided it wasn't working? Sometimes long distance relationships don't work. That doesn't necessarily mean he's not a good guy. Maybe he's now relocated and moved to where you are, and there may be something, because other than that, the relationship was healthy. You just wasn't in the same city. So that's one positive way to view it, assuming that's the same thing. Number two, if you guys were dating or in a relationship and he realized he wasn't financially stable, while you might look at him and go, but baby, I'm okay being patient. Some men are just real men and they don't want to be in a relationship if they can't do what's required. As sad as it may be, as hurt as you may be, at the end of the day, he's trying to do more good than harm by ending a relationship, hopefully on a positive note, and go, let me get my shit together. Right. Because I don't have it together right now. You're going to want to go out. I'm going to have to pay mortgage. We're going to have money. And I don't have it going on. I'm living on a couch somewhere. You know, right. So maybe he's being honest. He's telling you ahead of time, yeah, I know I'm the bomb. I know we feel good. We're, you know, our chemistry is inseparable, but I ain't together. Right now, it's not a good time for me to date. I want you to be able to come over my house without my mom yelling from the background, if you got company down in that bubble, you know, you don't want to hear that when you're trying to date. Right. That's a buzzkill, you know. So now on the flip side, if there was constant arguing and drama and foolishness going on, we got to ask ourselves why. Number one, if we had something to do with it, why were we like that at the time? And number two, why was he like that at the time? I always have to say, there is a reason for everybody's behavior. And I'm going to repeat that, ladies. Even ours, there's a reason for everybody's behavior. I'm not saying make excuses. I'm not saying get back in a relationship with him because you looked at him as a victim. He grew up with this past and it caused him to be that way. But what I can suggest is you proceed with caution if you feel like there is hope in a relationship. At the time, he may have been dealing with more than one woman. I'm going to be honest. He might have been cheating. He might have been torn between the two, and he thought that things would work with you, but he realized he still had ties with the other woman. He wasn't ready to leave her. So you guys ended up breaking up. You know, I don't know if he's honest about that or if you just kind of found out through the grapevine he was cheating or whatever you want to call it, or he wasn't really finished with his ex. That's one thing. You know, like if he's not committed to one woman, you can't date a guy that's committed to more than one woman. Now, if he realized that woman wasn't good, now he's coming to run to you, I suggest you proceed with caution because he had an opportunity to be with you. There was something about you that he liked. Why was he trying to date both of y'all? And why is it that you weren't good enough and in the end he went back to her? Is he going to do the same thing to you? You always have to think about stuff like that. You know, like, is he going to get bored and go, oh, this ain't what I thought. Let me dump her and move on to someone else. Don't go forward with a relationship with someone who's indecisive in who they want. They should be clear and intentional with who the heck they want to be with, for crying out loud. I mean, when you came back in that person's life and he was still dating someone, he should have been a man and said, you know what, I'm still in a relationship with someone else. So even though I'm attracted to you right now, might not be a good time, especially if he's not planning his exit strategy from that relationship so he can pursue something new and better with you. If he's sticking around trying to play two women, hell no. You don't need nobody like that. It's okay to date an ex for certain reasons. I don't really prefer it because I always feel like secrets and information I may have shared when I was at a vulnerable state is still out there. And I'm like, is he going to look at me funny now because I told him that? Is he going to always be looking at me sideways, remembering that time I said that, even though I'm different now, or even though that's not the case? You're going to have to make sure, you don't bring up the past, because if you decide to date an ex and now you're going, remember when you used to slap my butt? Or remember when you used to flirt with women in front of me and I didn't like it? Remember when you used to cheat on me? That's not going to be healthy, because now he's going to go, I thought we were getting past that and trying to redate each other. You're bringing up the past and starting to, open up old wounds. And that's going to be a problem. So, as a woman, if you're choosing to go backwards and date your ex for whatever reason, because he may have grown up now, you may feel like he's better than he used to be. He may have shown you proven results that things are better in the relationship and he can provide and be the man you want him to be. And once again, he's consistent and he's showing you this on a consistent basis. It's okay, but just be cautious. And once again, remember why it didn't work in the first place. If you played a part, try your best not to keep doing the same thing. If he played a part, watch him and see if it seems like he's got those same old habits and he's not changed. Margaret, I had something like that happen to me as well, where the guy called and he wanted to try to rekindle the past. And I was like, oh, I'm single. And I typically don't do this, but he was sounding good on the phone and he sent me a selfie. He looked good, nice haircut, the line, the lineup was on point. I was like, okay. But immediately I remembered the reason why we broke up, because he wasn't calling me. He wasn't being consistent. Ladies, if y'all hear me, once again, that word, I'm bringing it up again, consistent. That is what you look for, patterns and consistency. So he wasn't being consistent. He wasn't calling me. Now, mind you, this is after we had a long talk, after he reached back out, wanting to rekindle the relationship. I said, the reason why I dumped you was because you were not calling me. You were not texting me. You were consistently being inconsistent. You were not showing me you were interested. We never did anything together. You didn't plan any dates. I felt like we didn't really have a relationship. So I had to say bye. I wasn't going to settle for that. Oh, baby, I'm a changed man now. Oh, baby, I'm not going to do those things. I understand. I'm not going to do that thing. And then part of it, he started blaming me. Well, you this, you that, when I know it wasn't true. So at the end of the day, we ended up bumping heads again. And just like you said, I was like, oh, now I remember why I didn't date him. Bye. And I ended that thing.
Good. Yeah, there's something about consistency. And when men just aren't consistent with their actions, or they'll say things, but then they don't follow through.
My God, they don't.
And it's like all words and no action that goes with it. So frustrating.
It's very frustrating. And the excuses that come along with it. And then also the finger pointing and pointing blame on you. I have one who consistently, instead of trying to be better, that person constantly tries to find a reason to say, well, you did this. You always do that. I'm like, you know what? We're not going to go back and forth. Bye. I'm actually having a settle free mixer on October 21st. And what I'm going to do is do a Facebook live video like I did at my first.
Cool.
So we're going to have men talking there. And I'm definitely going to ask them that question that we just talked about. Why is it that you're not consistent? You don't follow up on your words. This isn't all men, but it's enough for us to be having this conversation because we both share the same opinion on that, I'm sure. So I'm going to ask, like, why? What is the deal on that? I want to know from men what the deal is.
Absolutely. And then you also have the opposite, where I'll have a guy come on like way too hard, fast and strong. And that throws up red flags for me sometimes. If it's, just a little bit too much and it's too soon to be doing some things. And I mean, there are some nice gestures, but when it is a little over the top, it's a red flag for me. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think that it looks like you're desperate, and it looks like there's a hidden motive behind it. Like you're trying to score, and you're trying to score really quickly, and you're hoping that you can kind of manipulate the woman into thinking that you're just so into her, so she'll be attracted to you, and maybe you can sleep with her faster, or either he's codependent and he's like just broke out of one relationship and he has to hurry up and fill that space because he's so used to having a woman he cannot be single. Some men are like that. They're very codependent. And so I actually agree with you on that. The red flags are raised if you come overly hard. I'd be like, you need to back away and get to know me and calm the hell down. You're getting on my nerves with all this pushing towards me, and it's turning me off. And then you're talking too much. The stuff you're doing is annoying. I had a guy like that. I mean, and then I let him use my car to follow me in a rental car. He wasn't using it to do anything, but I had to rent a car, and he was following me and wrecked my car. I mean, that's another whole conversation we can have offline one day. But
no.
Yeah. So not only were you inconsistent, you idiot, and you was over the top and you was doing the most, in the relationship, like just overly like coming on to me, but you wrecked my car. But anyway, so for those who are dealing with someone that's kind of like hitting on you too much, that's something to look out for, because it makes me wonder, what are you really up to here? What are you trying to get to?
Totally. And what about signs that, signs that maybe he's not interested? Like what is a guy I can list? I'm sure we both can compare our lists here. But give us a couple of signs that are signs that he's just not interested. Let's just move on and move on from this shit. Because if he's not interested, sometimes women, and definitely I've done this in the past, where he will clearly be not interested, but I still would be hopeful, and looking back, I'm like, oh my God, why?
Yeah,
right. Like I wouldn't even tolerate that for a second now. If he doesn't seem interested, he's not interested. And so not a big deal. You just move on, but give us some signs that he's not interested.
Yeah. One of the things I always say, is if he's interested, you will know. And if he's not interested, you will know. You see where I'm going with that?
Right.
So when he's not interested, he don't do nothing to show you he's interested. And it's cleared in your face to the point where only a dummy won't see that. First sign, no calling you hardly ever, unless it's convenient for him. Number 2, rushing off the phone when he does call. You always having to go right away. No kind of clear conversation. No one's going to rush away from anyone or anything they're interested in. If I'm trying to watch a movie and I'm interested and I want to see that movie, why am I going to go in that theater, sit down and go, all right, I've seen enough after 5 minutes and get up? That means I'm not interested in the movie. So if he's not showing any consistent interest in you, he's not interested. If he doesn't text or return your texts back when you're texting him and saying, hey, how you doing? Or how's your day? You're waiting all day for him to return it. Sometimes he doesn't even get back to you to the next day. He's not interested in you. If he only seems to call you after hours or at certain times where he knows good and well it's time for night and he shouldn't even be bothering you, especially if he haven't called you that morning or that weekend or earlier in the day, then he's not interested. He's only trying to get to what he wants at that point. He's trying to date you at his convenience, and that's not fair to you. It shouldn't be, part time. It should be as full time as he can be. He can't just date you when he wants to on his terms. It has to be an agreement amongst the two. If he, like when you call him and you're talking to him about the relationship, or you're simply trying to tell him, hey, I thought by now we would have grown. It's like you don't call, you don't do this. And he gets defensive. He ain't interested. Because, who does that? If you're into someone and you see them calling you out on something, whether they're right or wrong, and you really like that person, aren't you going to try to change your behavior to keep them? But if he's getting defensive, like off the top like that, he couldn't be interested, because now he's running you further away with his defensive attitude,
Right.
Right. So those are a few signs, and I'll repeat that. He doesn't call you back. He doesn't call you often. He doesn't return your texts either at all, or it takes a long time for him to respond. He gets defensive whenever you try to confront him about his inability to show you any interest. He doesn't say nice. I'm even going to add one. He doesn't say nice things about you. He doesn't compliment you. He's rushing off the phone whenever you all finally talk. He's always got to go really quickly. And then he'll say he'll call you back and he doesn't. Once again, that's a clear sign that he's not interested. Because guess what? When I was in love with somebody, I used to couldn't wait to get to that spot so we could text each other and do all kind of cutesy stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm getting ready to go home. My baby gonna call me, But if you don't feel that energy coming from him, then he's not interested. And it's so in your face to the point where you just got to go ahead and go, you know what, I got to go. And I see some people saying, well, I don't block people because I want them to know that I'm still good. If you block a person, it might show them that they had a hold on you. No, I don't agree with that. I feel like if you feel like you've been mistreated, ladies, and you've been downgraded and treated like you're nothing, and he doesn't show you any interest, and then you keep on being available every time he does decide to reach out, that's disrespectful. You got to start doing things to show him that you're not going to be available at his leisure. If he can't commit or try to, right, so block him. Next time he try to text you, but he get a bounce back or no response at all. And then he like reaching out to you on social media, you don't have to block him on there if you don't want to. You can just let him see you shining, honey, right in his face and just don't respond to none of his crap. But block that phone. It's way more intimate.
Oh, I've blocked numbers so I don't have to get texts from them.
Right. Smart.
Oh yeah.
Move.
I don't usually wait around, and I typically don't tolerate much. So and what you mentioned before about calling, and you said something like, oh, when you call him and then I'm not sure what exactly you said, that you would bring up like why you haven't done this, and that, and then he gets defensive.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I would not I think when I was younger, I probably definitely did that. But now, you know what? If the guy's not showing any signs of interest, or he's just not doing enough, or I'm bored. Like, you're boring me. And it's like, okay, forget it. I don't ever try anymore to and tell me what you think about this, but I don't ever say like, oh, what's going on, is especially if it's something like new. If it's something new and we've just started kind of dating, and then it kind of just trails off, and then it leads to nothing. I never call and be like, hey, what's going on? What's happened? Like, no, it's done. I don't even, I don't do anything. Because I don't pursue, because I feel like men pursue and women choose. And that's sort of how it should be. What do you think about that?
I totally agree. I think that a woman shouldn't have to put in that much work to try to get a mate. I think that a man should, already kind of like have his mind made up on who he wants, and he needs to pursue her. He needs to find her. And this is in my book. Find her, pursue her, date her, then marry her. That's all it is to it. That's what his plans are. There has to be a strategy. They plan to get those new rims when they're coming out. They plan to get that latest PlayStation game. Why not plan? Why not plan to get your wife or your future spouse? I mean, quit playing games. You know exactly what this is about. This ain't no joke. We all grow up wanting that family affair. We want to have a family. We want to have kids together. We want to grow up together in the house and grow old together. We all saw that as we growing up as kids, watching television or reading storybooks in preschool or in elementary school or whatever. Don't sit there and lie and go, oh, I don't want that. You want that. It may not happen for everybody, but we all want that. So when a man is pursuing you, ladies, they should be pursuing you intentional. They should be going, this woman seems like the one for me. Let me pursue her. Let me show her with my actions consistently that I want her. I want to woo her. I want to blow her mind. I want to sweep her off her feet to the point where she doesn't even see any other men. It's just me. Then I want to take her hand and put a ring on it. I want to be with her. That is what you want to see. Even if it doesn't end up in marriage right away, you want to see that it's eventually in your heart heading there. A mature man should have conversations about that and not run from you. Oh, that's another one I'm going to add to the list. If you're dealing with a guy that runs from you when you're talking about marriage, I get annoyed because it's not like I want to marry your butt next week. It's not like I'm already picking out the wedding dress. I'm still bringing up the conversation because, in my opinion, I need to know that I'm dating someone that eventually, possibly, wants to go there. Don't come to me and say, well, we'll talk about that later. Well, we'll see where it goes. Well, I don't like talking about marriage because it's too quick. It's too fast. I didn't say I'm ready to marry you, boy. I said, let's talk. Are you interested in getting married someday? What's wrong with that simple question to make sure? I always use jobs as an example. If you're looking for full-time work, you're going to fill out the application for a full-time job. Why would you apply for part-time if you know you want full-time? So you're going to make sure you go in with the mindset that this is a full-time position. This is what I want. You're not going to go in and go, I want full-time, but y'all only gave me part-time. Well, they're going to look at you and go, well, you only filled out a part-time position on the application. So you have to be intentional. So these men have better get it together when it comes to dating us. I want to be married and be in a relationship with one man, point blank, period. I don't care if I'm living in my own big mansion or if I'm sitting on the side of the road. As long as I'm a good woman and I have a good heart and I show that consistently to the man and I'm not putting any kind of burden on him, I'm not making him have to dig in his pocket and do everything, I'm not stressing him out and he sees I'm a good woman, he should be wanting to be with a good woman. It doesn't matter. You guys plan and grow together. And eventually, as you come up or whatever, you guys can plan to get stuff together. It does take work, but quit judging people on whether they got, because at the end of the day, if you decide to get married, you're only going to need one house. You're not going to live in two houses. So you're going to need to be together, mentally and equally yoked. That's what's most important. And a lot of times people look at you as if they want to make sure that you're 100% stable financially and all that. And that is very important and it's smart. But do you know how many people aren't yet there? And you have to be patient with the process. And this is what you look at. If that person's slowly but surely working on stuff and you see the results, you see the progress happening and they're trying to get better, let's not be so hard on them. I even say that in my book. I don't just say, oh, if he broke, leave him standing there. No. Because there's times that we all go through hardships. We go through temporary storms, but what is being done to stop it and fix it and make it better? That doesn't mean he's not a good man because he's going through a temporary storm. All right, once he gets out of that storm, then what? How's he treating you during that storm? Are you sitting there in the storm with him? Are y'all both on the corner begging for food? No. You have to stop being so judgmental and look at a person's heart, their intentions, the way they treat you, the way they consistently make you feel, the way they consistently pursue you, the things they constantly do for you. Some people sleeping in their car right now, but you wouldn't even know that because when they get where they're going, they treat you like a queen. You have no idea what their circumstances are because they didn't want to scare you away. They didn't want to make you look down on them. They didn't tell you what their situation was. All they know is they love you and they want to show you a good time. So they're going to go all out to do that. And then later on that night, go back in their car. You don't know what the situation is, but guess what? He went way out for you and he does it consistently. And then he's probably working behind the scenes. So stop judging people by their circumstances. How does he make you feel? That's important. And how does she make you feel, guys? I mean, same story for her as well,
Totally. I think that you said that there was also a chapter in your book about for men, right? That you included in there about what men should be doing.
Right. I talk about that whole find her,
exactly,
pursue her, date her, and marry her. And I give them the steps on how to do that.
Yeah. And I agree that I love when men make plans, when they are, make the reservation, when they, because I hate being the one doing that stuff. Unless there's like a new restaurant that I really want, then I will, put out sort of my desire. Like, oh my God, I just heard about this new restaurant that's opening up and I would love to go to that and then allow him to sort of make the reservation. And that's what a turn on for me it is. And yes. I know for a lot of women, when men make the initiative rather than me always planning or doing this, or we should go there, or let's go this, or I booked something, or I got us tickets for this. I really love when men kind of just step up and, take the initiative and go for it. And then obviously we should be appreciating them after that, for what they do for us. If they've gone out of their way to give us that thing that we've wanted, or taken us someplace that we've always, or a new restaurant that we expressed that we wanted to go to or something.
Yes, I do agree. I love that so much. I feel like it's a turn on and it will stop half the arguments in the world. I just fell out with a guy over a similar situation. Like, we were so close, but I had to end it. I mean, after so many times of dealing with the lame excuses and the BS going, I'm busy. Okay, bye. How about this? I think Beyonce said it best. since I can't be your everything, how about I be nothing? Bye. That's
Right.
exactly that's exactly what I had to do on him. I had to go straight, settle free on his butt. You know what I'm saying? Like, bye. If you want me, you know where I am. Other than that, be gone. I'm sorry. I hate that it had to be like that, but I dealt with it for so long. And that's something that's outside of my character because I was very into him and he was very into me. We had a very close connection. And that was just like chemistry that was mad unreal. But after so many times, and you said something so important, bored. I got very bored with the relationship. And it's not because I got bored because the stuff he was doing for me became dull. He wasn't doing anything. He wasn't the planner. He wasn't taking the initiative to plan the dates or the trips or to listen to somewhere special I wanted to go. He always hollering busy, busy, busy. And I got tired of that because you know the saying, people make time for the people and the things they want to make time for. Point blank, period. I don't care. If you're not somewhere 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you ain't too busy to make a few hours time for someone you care about. If you don't, other than that, you're not really that interested in them. That's all. It's something about them you like, but it's enough about them to make you not want to pursue. So that's all I needed to see, and after a while, I just had to go on and say bye.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right. Well, we are coming down here to the end of our interview. How can people find you?
Yes, so everybody, you can find me. My name is spelled with a Z, so make sure you remember that. It's Tinzley. Find me on Instagram under TINZLEYB, so at Tinzley B. Find me on Twitter at Tinzley B. You can also find me on Facebook at author Tinzley Bradford. Also on YouTube under my first name, which is Tinzley. So everything is Tinzley, Tinzley, Tinzley. And if you and if you go to Google and just simply put Tinzley or hashtag settle free, a lot of my conversations and social media channels will be available. And also visit my website, tinzleybradford.com. Once again, everybody, I'm going to say this in about 2 weeks, October 21st, I'm going to be having my second annual Settle Free Mixer. And if you follow me on Facebook, I'm going to make sure I go live so that you can see, especially if you're in another city and you can't come join me, but you can get your tickets on Eventbrite. If you are in Atlanta and you happen to be listening to this podcast, please get some because I'll be here. Second annual Settle Free Mixer is going to be going down. We're going to have men and women in there talking about relationships. We're going to have financial experts in there because that's another thing that's important. And I'd love to talk about that to you in a future conversation podcast, Margaret. Finances and relationship. How can we get on the same page, and stop the arguing, stop the bickering, and get our money right together,
Exactly.
So, yes.
So
Thank
important.
you so much.
And so I always end all of my interviews with 3 quick, really random questions.
Mm-hmm.
First one is, what is one of your biggest indulgences, something that you don't mind spending a lot of money on?
Oh my God, a vacation. I do not, you mean like, I will spend a lot of money to go on a vacation. Talk about to one of my favorite places like Jamaica or to an island somewhere. That's one of my biggest indulgences. I don't mind what it costs. I'm going to try and make it happen because that ocean, that beautiful beachfront, the luxury rooms, I love stuff like that. I do not mind spending money on that.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, that's a favorite of mine too. What is one of your favorite apps that you use on your phone, like all the time?
One of my favorite apps that I use all the time is, oh my God, there's so many on there. I use Typorama a lot. We all know that Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, that's the norm. I already use those. I can't really decide amongst those. But Typorama, I post a lot of messages on Facebook and Instagram, and I use Typorama because you can post it and you can write on it the text on top of what you put, even if it's a picture of yours or a picture of an image that you want to write on top of it to kind of portray a message. So it's called Typorama. I love it.
Oh, I have to check it out. Okay. And I'd love to know what you wear to bed.
You really want to know that, Margaret? It's getting hot in here. That's my hint. It's getting hot in here. That's what I wear to bed. I actually, to be honest, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I sleep nude most of the time. Very seldom do you see me fully clothed. I just can't do a lot of clothes. And then even in the wintertime, when it gets really cold, it's hard for me to drive with a big coat on. I be sitting in my car like it's not winter sometimes because I'm like, it's too much stuff on me. I cannot have all this on me while I'm trying to drive. So the same thing goes when I'm asleep. I can't be all packed under the sheets or the cover and fully clothed. It's so annoying. I feel like someone's grandma, you know? Well, I am someone's grandma. I have a grandson. But anyway, that's another story.
Do you tend to walk around nude at home too, even, you know?
Yes.
Randomly?
Yes, I do. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm just a free-flowing lady. And I mean that literally flowing. I let it flow. I don't have time to be restricted when I'm in the comfort of my own place.
I like
whatever.
it. I like it. I like your style.
Thank you.
Yeah, clothes are overrated sometimes. Do you go to nude beaches as well?
No, I haven't got that comfortable yet to do that. I have looked at commercials where there was these two ladies on there and they went to one and I think they were like, you didn't know what they were doing at first. And then at the end of the commercial, they both looked at each other, had a big smile and threw their towels off and ran to the beach. And I thought it was the cutest commercial. I said, don't think I'll ever do that yet. I'm not really there yet as far as being free is concerned, but it looks pretty cool for those who are confident enough to do that. I'm not really there yet, but pretty cool.
Yeah, I love skinny dipping and just feeling the water without any sort of restriction. Or I think you would love it too. Just FYI, the next time you're like in South Beach or Miami or something, which is typically where I go and do that, because it's so sort of free there. And the beach too. And at night, there's nobody there. You just kind of go into your hotel pool.
Wow.
It's nice.
Well, I'm gonna keep that in mind. That sounds fun. I might can get away with doing that instead of the nude beach thing, because my fear at the nude beach is they gonna get one of those angles and have me on the Inquirer magazine going, guess whose body this is? Like.
No, I think I think you'd have a lot of people just staring at you, like, okay. Oh yeah.
I'll take that. Thank you. I'll take that.
Well, Tinzley, thank you so much for this interview. So much fun. Thank you for all the information. I hope that women, if you are listening and you're like, oh my God, I'm totally settling for this schmuck. Listen, there's too many men out there, way too many men. And there are good men out there. Don't settle for the guy because you feel like you don't want to be alone or whatever, because how annoying, because men that aren't interested, or if they've just behaving badly, it sucks all around. And it's also so frustrating and boring. So that man that you deserve to have, he's out there, and stop settling for any man that's not willing to take you out, call you, text you, want to see you, make plans, all those good things, because you deserve it.
Absolutely. Tell them next.
Yeah. Well, Tinzley, thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Marguerite. Thank you to Marguerite's lovely listeners. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Thank you. Well, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, and you were able to come away with some really great pearls to know that, girl, you do not need to settle for anybody. So, to learn more about Tinzley and for all the show notes, head on over to margaretromero.com/episode 52. Until next week, have the most beautiful, awesome, fulfilling week. Much love, big kisses, and I'll speak to you then.